Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto manga chapter review. This one's going to be for chapter 13, The Value of a Trump Card. Now, obviously this is coming late because the translation for the chapter went up very late. Usually it would be like Thursday going into Friday, a little bit later than usual for most manga chapters, but this one, as far as I'm aware, it took until like this morning to basically be released, which was a really long delay in that. I think basically today, like official, like Shonen Jump in English is coming out, so it is quite late. But anyway, we're here to discuss the chapter, which overall I think is a solid enough chapter. I think like the previous 1-2 chapters, it's not kind of what I expected given the reveal from the end of the movie adaptation. I get this is the first, I suppose, proper post-movie arc for these characters. And I like, to a degree, what they're doing with Boruto in terms of like establishing him now post-movie and like where he is as a character. And kind of properly, I suppose, having the team kind of come together on some stuff. It just feels a little kind of weird that we're so focused on just like 2 or 3 characters. It doesn't really feel like we're being given the detail about what exactly is going on right now. But again, I think we're still at the point now where the main threat of the series hasn't really been introduced just yet. Like in original Naruto, of course, the first arc was just a mission which ended up being kind of bigger than usual. And on that mission we found out about, the Blood Mist Village and stuff like that. And then we had the tuning exams. And then towards the end of the tuning exams we got the introduction of Orochimaru, and I suppose in the aftermath of that, we got the introduction of the Akatsuki, which was then when the series kind of got into play. But at that stage, we were like 100 chapters in or something like that. So we're still, I think, a bit away from like expecting just everything to be super plot focused. Right now, I do think this is kind of one of our first kind of proving themselves arcs. So I'm willing to kind of give the manga a bit of time to kind of pick up. But yeah. So where we get to is obviously that we immediately have Boruto, as far as he's aware, he's done with his job protecting Tento, and we kind of move on. Him and the team basically go to see Konohamaru, and the reveal is that they have a mission, and it's a B-rank mission. He's willing to give them the chance to do a B-rank mission, and it's this big thing. Mitsuki points out that it's not all that strange. Gaara, the current Kazekage, was clearing B-rank missions when he was a Genin, and so on. And this is something that they're really kind of, happy about. Sarada, you can see, she's just like, oh, a previous Kage did really high-level missions when he was younger. That's something I need to do if I want to become Hokage. And then Boruto is just kind of impressed. He says, Uncle Gaara used to take care of these missions. That sounds really cool. So he's just more impressed with Gaara was the one doing this, and he respects Gaara, so that's interesting. And then we just get the idea that Konohamaru says to them, their expectations are high for you, but if you fail, it also won't be great. And if things go poorly, you might end up having to do a lot of really lower ranked missions for a while until you can do another high level mission again. And it's just this big kind of hype moment for the team where they're finally going to go on like a really big mission. And as Boruto's walking away on his own, in his pocket he realizes that, oh, there's a card in here, and he realizes that somehow Tento managed to slip him the card that Boruto really wanted. The one that he said to Tento, like, I'd prefer to get it on my own, but Tento still gave it to him. And even by the end of this chapter, they still haven't revealed to us which character card Boruto actually wants. I think we all assume it's the easy option would be it's Sasuke, but it also feels like that's too easy. That when they eventually reveal which card it is, it's not going to have a ton of impact because it's just, oh, Tento wanted the Naruto card, you wanted the Sasuke card. Where's the meaning behind it? So in that case, I'm kind of almost wondering, like, is it going to be revealed to maybe be like Hinata or something like that? I could maybe see it kind of being something like that. Maybe it's Minato or something like that. Because I think Boruto mentions that he has really bad luck in the game, apart from he gets really lucky and pulls that same Naruto card that he gave to Tento loads of times. So it's a weird one in that I think they could go down a different direction than it just being the obvious I want the Sasuke card. Um, so in that case, I think the only options are really like Sasuke, maybe Minato, Hinata perhaps, or the other one was just maybe younger Naruto. Maybe after the Boruto movie, he actually wants the card of just younger kind of Genin Naruto or something like that. Who knows? But I hope it has impact when if it finally is revealed. Um, but Boruto does actually kind of note that like it was really impressive of Tento that he was able to kind of secretly slip this card into Boruto's pocket without him knowing, because Boruto is obviously a pretty good ninja and he just can't believe that he was able to do that. And Boruto is basically, he says, no, I have to give this back. I do want to get this card on my own. And he basically goes to the kind of apartment block where Tento lives, and he overhears basically Tento's father talking about him and the fact that he's been kidnapped and that bad stuff is happening right now. This is where we get the mention of the Mujina again, and basically there's been a ransom. They want 500 million Rio in ransom money, and then also for the release of all of the inmates at the special prison Hozuki Castle, which we know about from a couple of the different scenarios. One of the, I think it's the Kakashi light novel references Hozuki Castle, and then there's that movie which also references it. It is established to be, a special prison where they put really high level shinobi. So this is a really dangerous threat. If they actually are allowed to go ahead with this and release all of these inmates from Hozuki Castle, that is a lot of dangerous shinobi out in the world, and so that's like a near impossible thing to do. And just we see the daimyo, obviously Tento's father, kind of just noting that they need to keep everything under surveillance. Anything happening could put Tento's life in danger, and so on. He says to get the money ready, but he basically says he kind of doesn't have the power to just release everyone from Hozuki Castle. That just is an impossible thing for even him to do something so dangerous. And then we get into what has turned out to be, for some reason, I don't really know why, the most controversial aspect of this chapter, and it's just Sarada's outfit for these next couple of pages. And I think it's one of those ones where like everyone's speaking about why are they overly sexualizing Sarada? But like, here's the thing is, I don't think the art inherently is sexualizing the character. If you think that this is being sexualized, that's you sexualizing the character rather than the art doing it. So I don't think this is really a problem with the artist, and I think the context behind this scene makes it perfectly fine, in that I think the implication is that like it's nighttime, of course, because Boruto's like basically finished up for the day, realizes he has the card, is going to give it back to Tento, and then comes over to Sarada to say, actually I've got another mission. That's kind of what happens. So he's basically just kind of knocking at her window at nighttime, when she's just doing some kind of, I suppose, last minute training basically. And so what she's wearing here, I just assumed that like it's either her pajamas or some sort of a kind of workout gear that she wears. I really don't see this as being like anything like overly sexualized. I just see like this is Sarada training, showing how skilled she is, that she has the skills of Sasuke and so on, and that she's trying to get ready, and that Boruto knocks at the window. And then I think if they were even trying to like in any way like make the scene in any way like sexualized or anything like that, they would have, I think, brought up more the fact that maybe Sarada is embarrassed as to what she's wearing or something like that. And then Boruto, it's not like he's even trying to look in or anything like that. It's just her curtains are closed, the window's closed, and they're just talking to each other through the window. They can't even see each other. So it's just, a talk. And even then, I think the talk is actually quite interesting, in that Boruto kind of just is kind of doing the mature thing and just saying like, hey, teammate, I'm not going to be able to make that mission. And like Sarada's wondering like why, and she says, is it something important? And he just says, yeah. Something you can't talk about? Again, he says, yeah. And she just like pauses for a second and then says, I understand. Mitsuki and I will take care of things on this end, so take care of whatever you need to. And he says, thanks, I owe you one. And he kind of goes off. And she does take her glasses off and kind of just notes that he's gotten really all, and then she says Shanaru, with the impression, I suppose, being that she's kind of impressed with kind of, I suppose, how mature and I suppose in a way reliable Boruto has become recently. And I think it's just to kind of emphasize that we know she does have a crush to a degree on Boruto, which is quite nice. But again, trying to make that out as something like overly sexualized, I cannot kind of buy into that at all. I think it's just, okay, new outfit for her when she trains on her own. It's not like she's wearing that out when she's actually doing her normal missions. Like, I get the complaints about, like, her outfits from, like, the Kishimoto design of her outfits are better than Ikimoto's, but I don't think the problem here is that they're, like, overly sexualized. I just think they're maybe not the greatest designs. So that complaint, which has been an ongoing thing every time Sarada's been in a chapter, this week especially, given that we had 5 days of not having the translation and only having the art to talk about, it was just kind of obnoxious at a certain point to just see everyone bring this up. But yeah, we're at about the halfway point of the chapter here, so we find out that Tento has been kidnapped, of course, and has been taken to this, what's it called, Nakayoshi factory, and we find out that the kind of butler guy who we know was kind of in a previous chapter was is one of these kind of corpse clones. It's kind of the reveal here, and he introduces himself, and it's this what's his name, Shojoji, I think is his name, and it's this really huge guy, and like the art on him is like super detailed, but it's a very different look for a character who is established to be a ninja. And he basically just, to Tento, explains the Shikabani Bushin no Jutsu corpse clone technique. And he basically says it allows you to devour and take in the form, memories, and abilities, and finally the life of your target. And this is where he introduces himself. My name is Shojoji, and he says he's one of those ninjas you love so much. And a lot of this chapter is about him basically saying that, like, oh, do you look up to me like you look up to all those ninjas on those cards? Have they made a card of me? And eventually Tento kind of speaking up, showing a bit of backbone, and kind of saying that you are not a ninja. You do not represent what ninjas actually are, and so on. And it's just this idea that, the part of the plan here is that he actually notes Shojoji. Just now we threw some absurd demands at him. Of course we're not expecting them for free. We'll be trading you for them. So I suppose to some degree he's not expecting the demands to be met completely. But, that's kind of what's happening here. As Tento's kind of thrown to the ground here, the shuriken and the card that Boruto kind of gave him drop out. And this kind of inspires, like, Tento. He remembers the interactions he's had with Boruto, and the inspiration of, like, he wants to kind of become a ninja himself. And he remembers what Boruto said, that Boruto wants to become a ninja that can support the Hokage. And this inspires him as he basically gets the shuriken in his hand and says, "Don't underestimate me." And this is where he points out the fact that you aren't a ninja, and that's why there's no card for you. No one would ever recognize scum like you as ninja. And what he tries to do is not actually a fight back against Shojoji. Instead, the implication seems to be that he basically tries to kind of commit suicide almost. That he tries to, like, use the shuriken to like cut his, like, arm so badly that he kind of bleeds out, so that he's not used as a hostage anymore. That's about as much as he thinks he can do. But obviously Shojoji grabs him before he can kind of really do any damage to himself. And I suppose this is the point where Shojoji realizes that, like, whoa, I never expected you to do this, but I'm going to have to... I can't have you throwing away your precious life. And this is where he reveals how the corpse clone technique actually is performed. In order to take in and use a face for the Shikabani Bunshin, it requires eating the brain while it's still alive. And we get this, like really disgusting kind of page. It's just, like, shocking that this is actually a thing that they're even in any way showing, as he kind of opens his mouth and goes to effectively just eat the top of Tento's head. Of course, as before anything can actually happen, Boruto comes in and kicks Shojoji away. But just the implication that is one of the most kind of grotesque, kind of disgusting, like, activations of a jutsu that, like, is possible. Just the idea that you have to literally eat someone's brain to gain their kind of life. And it speaks to, I suppose, how kind of intricate and detailed that jutsu is, that it literally does kind of completely, it's a perfect kind of clone of someone who you've just kind of killed, because you've effectively taken in their life force. So there's that. But Boruto comes in and says, Tento, you've got some pretty mean guts in you after all, and Tento's very happy to have Boruto there. And we end just with the idea of like Shojoji is aware that Boruto is the Hokage's kid, and Boruto just says, just leave him to me from here on out, this is our work. And then we get the translator's note, R is written as ninja, so this is a real big thing for Boruto, that he's kind of really making himself out as a ninja now, having, like, of course in the Boruto movie, kind of more or less kind of said that he doesn't really care about ninja stuff all that much. Yeah, and that's where we end the chapter, with just the idea that this big fight is going to happen next chapter, and we'll see the extent of Shojoji's power beyond the corpse clone technique, and I suppose we'll see how powerful Boruto is in a one-on-one fight against a notably powerful kind of villain here. So this should be, I think, a pretty good fight, all things told. It's just, in relation to this chapter, it was a lot of setup, and it almost felt to a degree that, in terms of it being a monthly thing, the amount of content that we got in this chapter, like, in a way, you almost feel it could have been told in one chapter. If they edited it effectively, you could have told all of this in the space of, like 10, 12 pages, maybe 2 chapters at a stretch. It just felt like there was a lot of padding to reach the, like, 45-page mark or something like that. It was, it's just, I think there's a sense in the fandom right now with the Boruto manga that it's not working massively well in terms of getting the story across particularly effectively. I think it's good, but it is, especially the last couple of chapters, feels very, very, like, slow paced. And because I think what's here is good, it's just the build to it is happening so slowly. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of identity to each chapter necessarily. Like in this one, like the core of it, like what exactly is the core of it? It's like they get a mission, Boruto finds out about the kidnapping, goes to Sarada, says, I can't take the mission, goes to find where Tento is, and then we see a little bit of interaction between Tento and his captor, and then Boruto arrives. Like, there's no, like, big moment that necessarily happens in this chapter. So in a way, it feels like it's just kind of aspects from a couple of chapters kind of put together, where they'd be okay as, 10, 12-page chapters, usual weekly chapters, but put together as, like, the equivalent of, like, 4 or 5 chapters, it doesn't really feel like it's worth the month wait. So that's what I think they need to tackle here, because I think the art is actually really good and kind of on point here, and there is a lot of interesting setup stuff going on here with this fight. I'm actually interested to see how it goes down. Will Sarada just stay back and let Boruto do what he's doing? Will it be a side plot that Boruto and Sarada and Mitsuki go on that mission on their own? Or will they both kind of join in and help out Boruto? We don't exactly know. But yeah, like a solid enough chapter. I'm not going to say it was amazing. It was just decent. I still want to know who the card that Boruto has is. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on that, as well as what I said throughout this entire review. What were your thoughts on the chapter? But yeah, that's been the review. Thanks for watching, and bye.